8 hours labor, 8 hours recreation, 8 hours rest. We're going to talk about the person behind this quote shortly. The 8-hour working day is the common model we follow. But we never really ask where this came from in the first place, the 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. routine. The irony is that the 8-hour working day actually comes from an entrepreneur, the guy from the quote before. It's 1799, we're in Scotland and the working conditions are rough. We're talking about industrial labor and wage slavery, people working 13 to 14-hour days. Underpaid, hard physical work. At the time, a guy named Robert Owen co-ran a textile factory. The socialist that he was, he wanted to improve the working conditions in his factory, fighting wage slavery. So he reduced the daily hours from 14 to 10.5 hours. He wanted to showcase that you can keep and potentially increase productivity by reducing the mere hours. And it worked. Additionally, he set up health and social insurance for his workers, including retirement benefits. In the US, it took longer to implement the 9-to-5 model. People were working 10+ hours for a while. In 1914, Henry Ford himself even reduced working hours from 9 to 8 hours a day. Finally, in 1938, the US officially and legally introduced the 8-hour working day. There are good reasons for having a 9-to-5 model. Not everyone can or even wants to be an entrepreneur. So you need a framework for those people. Depending on how a company is run and structured, this framework makes employees less or more happy. Let's talk about the elephant in the room though. Looking at the narrative that is widely promoted nowadays, it seems that working 9 to 5 is dated and you're only on track for success if you become an entrepreneur. It's difficult to be online without being bombarded with the following statements. Quit your 9 to 5, escape the rat race, start a business, be your own boss. So I was wondering whether entrepreneurship is the only way to go if you seriously want to accomplish something in life. I researched and dug into both perspectives. Let's start with the 9 to 5 approach. It's easy to fall for it, thinking that working a job as an employee is not the right thing to do. Just within that sentence, there's a first misconception, because we think of a 9 to 5 as a job, and nothing more than a job. So it's not surprising that you don't get any thrill or excitement out of jobs when you're really after building a career, a profession, maybe even your calling. You do a job solely for the money, while you pursue a career as meaningful work, above the money. The sweet spot in today's world and economy is doing meaningful work that you genuinely like, and that pays enough for you to entertain a certain standard of living. And based on that, both models can work extremely well, entrepreneurship as well as the 9 to 5 career. So why is it that entrepreneurship seems to be so much more popular and almost push some people? The problem only arises due to the black and white thinking most people apply here. If you listen to them, you're either left as a 9 to 5 loser or win big as a millionaire entrepreneur. Reality isn't black and white though, and the truth is somewhere in between. That includes major success from working 9 to 5 with great colleagues, culture, good salary and work-life balance in place, all the way to eventually starting your own company. And don't you think you're so safe from joining another rat race as an entrepreneur, working your butt off to pay the bills and feed your employees? Don't be so sure that being your own slave is always the better option. Mental health issues and running businesses correlate for a reason as well. Let's compare the issue of both, entrepreneurship versus 9 to 5 careers. As Jordan Peterson says, pick your damn sacrifice. It can be tempting to choose your career based on the perks and the glory. It's much more difficult to make a decision based on the pain, sacrifice, and limitations. What's the price you're willing to pay? Entrepreneurship, the biggest problem. The biggest issue with entrepreneurship is the fact that it's widely being portrayed as glorious and fancy, while it's not. You're probably not starting as a success. People don't care about your amazing business model unless it's of direct value to them. You constantly have to delay gratification to make sure your finances are healthy. No Lambos, no mansions, no yachts. You're working almost non-stop, especially in the beginning. Most of the blood, sweat and tears you're putting in will never be recognized by anyone ever. And you have to be okay with that. And once you have success and build your team, you're working for them. The responsibilities never stop, and you're being held accountable by everyone who relies on your ability to drive the venture. The amount of discomfort and frustration can only be overcome when you understand that you have to push ego and pride aside. You need to keep operations running smoothly while being on top of the corporate strategy and vision, while dealing with employees, including their needs and complaints. Everybody working below you can point their fingers at you saying it's your fault. And they're probably right. You can only blame yourself. That's a burden, also emotionally. Entrepreneurship means dedicating a lot of your time and energy to something with little to no external validation. The feedback you get comes from the market directly, and the market doesn't care about your feelings. It's brutally honest. If you're intrinsically not driven enough, it will be difficult for you to remain long enough to see first success. The biggest problem with 9-to-5 careers. The biggest problem of a 9-to-5 career doesn't even have to be a problem. And yet, to many people as ambitious as you, there is a problem. And that's the limitations that 9-to-5 careers come with. Statistically, it's insanely difficult to make millions with a 9-to-5 career because you receive a salary that is only as high as the perceived value you bring to the company. Your upside is limited by a fixed structure. Set schedule, set salary, set culture. On top of that, there's a chance that you have interests or talents that your 9-to-5 journey cannot satisfy. Thus, you may want to push into something that challenges more parts of your self-concept. On the other hand, you don't carry all the responsibilities as an employee either. If you mess something up, it's bad, but besides your manager giving you hell, you don't have to deal with further consequences that your failure may have caused to the company. If you're clueless or unsure, you can always consult the upper hierarchy level, and it's okay if you don't have the solution or can't make the decision. There's someone in charge of your position, and that is a way of support. As an entrepreneur, being clueless or indecisive is being punished by the market or by customers. You don't have another support structure to use as an excuse. It's all on you. The big difference, the success and growth is also on you. Thus, you can grant yourself a much bigger portion of that, also financially. The better you perform, the higher your return. In a 9-to-5, however, you can bring all your assets to the table and perform great. The pay by the end of the month or year won't change unless you work based on commissions. Let's now talk about the sweet side of 9-to-5 careers as well as of entrepreneurship. Throughout my research for this video, I read through forums to understand what people really like about their 9-to-5 jobs. The one thing I found most interesting wasn't security or employment benefits though. Something 9-to-5 employees seem to prefer over the entrepreneurship life is being acknowledged. People value the appreciation for their work, their efforts being recognized, and the chance of being promoted. Having someone say "good job" is something above the money. As an entrepreneur, I can tell you that public recognition and day-to-day appreciation is rare. You're mostly dealing with problems, and when things are running well, you're doing good, but you don't have teams or people reaching out with praise, at least rarely. When things aren't going well, you're being put on the spot every time. Validation, appreciation, or glory are things you have to be okay living without. Additionally, working for someone else gets you instant access to a work culture and a network. As an entrepreneur, you have to establish that yourself. More work, less comfort, but total control on establishing something you value. The upside of entrepreneurship. All the hustle and pressure aside, having asked a bunch of entrepreneurs, they would not trade their path for a 9-to-5. For them, it seems like there isn't much of a big advantage to working 9-to-5, except for employment benefits and things like paid leave. Entrepreneurship teaches you a lot in very little time. You are forced to outgrow your standards and will have a different understanding of how the world works. Instead of only participating in structures, you're now running and shaping your own structures. You give the world your imprint. On top of that, you ideally run your venture on your terms, have full control, and understand what you're capable of. And whatever field you want to explore as a business, you can now pursue it and cash in on that. It's few limits, and the limits that exist are not bound to people as gatekeepers. Talking about money, If you want to scale your finances without having to go the brutal path of corporate executives, entrepreneurship can make you way more money, directly depending on the value you're bringing to the marketplace. Of course, you can make tons of money, in many ways even quicker than 9 to 5, but every journey is different, so it's hard to predict what's in for you. If you can handle all that, it may be worthwhile. If you're driven by making tons of money, then you may not want to choose a 9 to 5 career for the long run. Only a few 9 to 5 paths can make you seriously wealthy, compared to fields like private equity or executive positions. The latter require tons of commitment over many years, insane pressure as well, and the probability of getting there is rather low. You're better off starting a business that would eventually make you well over 6 figures. It's not easy, but achieving corporate executive salary levels may even be harder. Let's focus on a pragmatic solution to success now. Unless you're incapable of working for someone else and cannot stand a single minute, it's a good idea to start with a 9 to 5 or equivalent. You have to see it as a paid ticket to join and visit another entrepreneur's dream. That's essentially what it is, working for someone else or the structure the person has developed. You can learn from everything, pick up processes that work well, listen to issues that colleagues or customers are dealing with. All that without any entrepreneurial risk. Now that's something a 9 to 5 can give you like nothing else. The risk-reward ratio of a 9 to 5 is quite good in the beginning to mid-phase of your career. You have some sort of income for mid-term security, which is crucial for human beings. And way more importantly, you can use this job to take off the social pressure off your shoulders. Keep in mind that not everyone is as resilient as some of the superstar entrepreneurs we know. Most people, maybe even you, are insecure at times. They do feel insanely forced to get their shit together whenever their environment starts questioning their progress. How's the business going? Are you making money yet? What if you fail? Aren't you scared to go bankrupt? You're age X and still haven't reached the milestone you were talking about for ages. What's your plan? If you can't handle pursuing the pure and brutal road to successful entrepreneurship with all the pressure it comes with, do the light version first. Get a job to buy some time and use its socially acceptable image to take off pressure. In your free time, you go all in on building your business. Eventually, you'll be able to quit your job and pursue entrepreneurship full-time. That's the way to taste both careers. If I had to summarize the difference between entrepreneurship and working 9 to 5 in a single word, it's probably more. Entrepreneurship is oftentimes more pressure, more frustration, more reward, more diverse, more painful, more potential, and is overall more intense. But as you know, more isn't always the better option. You are the designer of your life, whether it's business or 9 to 5. Push your boundaries. Otherwise, you will never know what's on the other side, and at some point, you may not get the chance to explore it again.